2 Kings, chapter 1. Elijah and King Ahaziah. After King Ahab's death, Moab rebelled against Israel, leading to chaos. King Ahaziah fell from his upper chamber and became seriously ill. To see if he would recover, he sent messengers to inquire of Baal-zebub, the god of Ekron. Receiving God's word, Elijah met Ahaziah's messengers. He rebuked them, saying, "Why do you inquire of Baal-zebub, when there is a God in Israel?" Elijah prophesied that Ahaziah would never leave his bed and would surely die. Furious, Ahaziah sent his army to capture Elijah. However, Elijah's prayer brought down fire from heaven, killing all the soldiers. At the captain's earnest plea, Elijah was moved to go to the king and personally announce his death. Ultimately, Ahaziah became ill and died, just as Elijah had prophesied. His younger brother, Jehoram, succeeded him as king of northern Israel. Provided by the Bible History School. If you subscribe and set up notifications, you can receive one chapter of the Bible every day. 2 Kings, chapter 2. Elijah ascends to heaven. Elijah and Elisha reached the Jordan River. Elijah rolled up his mantle and struck the water, and the waters parted, and they crossed on dry ground. Elijah asked Elisha for his final wish. Elisha asked for a double portion of Elijah's spiritual power. As they walked and talked, a chariot of fire and horses of fire appeared, and separated Elijah and Elisha. Elijah ascended to heaven in a whirlwind. Elisha picked up Elijah's mantle, and stood again at the Jordan River. Like Elijah had done, he struck the water with his mantle, and cried out, "Where is the Lord, the God of Elijah?" Then the waters parted, and Elisha crossed the Jordan River. The prophet's disciples saw him from a distance, and realized that Elijah's spiritual power had come upon Elisha. Provided by the Bible History School. If you subscribe and set up notifications, you can receive one chapter of the Bible every day. 2 Kings, chapter 3. The war between Israel and Moab. King Jehoram of Israel allied with King Jehoshaphat of Judah and the king of Edom to fight against Moab's rebellion and set out to conquer it. However, the allied forces faced an unexpected obstacle, a water shortage in the harsh desert. In this desperate situation, King Jehoshaphat sought out the prophet Elisha. Elisha, receiving a revelation from God, prophesied a miracle. As Elisha had said, the valley was filled with water, quenching the thirst of the army. However, the Moabites mistook the red water, reflecting in the morning sun, for blood. The Moabite soldiers mistakenly believed that the Israelite allies were killing each other. The Moabites tried to plunder the Israelites but were defeated. The Israelites destroyed Moabite cities and devastated the land. The king of Moab, in despair, became extremely angry with Israel. Eventually, the Israeli coalition forces gave up further advance and withdrew to their respective countries. Provided by the Bible History School. If you subscribe and set up notifications, you can receive one chapter of the Bible every day. 2 Kings, chapter 4-1. Elisha and the widow's oil jar. In Elisha's time, a widow faced the prospect of selling her 2 sons into slavery due to debt. She asked Elisha for help. Elisha found out that the widow had nothing but a jar of oil. He instructed all her neighbors to borrow as many empty jars as they could. Then, he told the widow to fill all the jars with oil from the jar. As the widow poured the oil, it kept pouring out until all the vessels were full. Elisha told the widow to sell the oil pay off her debt, and live off the remaining money. Provided by the Bible History School. If you subscribe and set up notifications, you can receive one chapter of the Bible every day. 2 Kings chapter 4-2. Elisha and the Shunammite woman. Elisha often visited the village of Shunem. There, a woman treated him with great hospitality. She offered Elisha food whenever he passed by, and later even prepared a small room for him. Elisha was so touched by her kindness that he wanted to bless her. Elisha's servant Gehazi learned that the woman had no children. Elisha prophesied that she would have a son. And, miraculously, as prophesied, the woman gave birth to a son. However, a few years later, the child suddenly died. The desperate woman went to Elisha, and Elisha prayed for the child. Miraculously, the child came back to life. Provided by the Bible History School. If you subscribe and set up notifications, you can receive one chapter of the Bible every day. 2 Kings chapter 5. Naaman is healed. Naaman, commander of the Aram army, was a courageous general, but unfortunately, he suffered from leprosy. He heard about this from a captive Israelite girl and sought the prophet Elisha for help. Elisha did not appear in person, but only said, "Wash in the Jordan River 7 times." Naaman was initially outraged by this rudeness. But he eventually obeyed, immersed himself, and was miraculously healed of his leprosy. He was deeply grateful to Elisha, acknowledged God, and worshipped him. He returned to his homeland and asked for dirt to worship God. Meanwhile, Elisha's servant Gehazi coveted Naaman's gift and falsely obtained the money. But it was soon discovered, and Gehazi was punished with leprosy. This story emphasizes the importance of humility and obedience. It also shows that salvation is open to foreigners. Provided by the Bible History School. If you subscribe and set up notifications, you can receive one chapter of the Bible every day. 2 Kings chapter 6. Defeating the Aramean army. As the king of Aram continued to attack Israel, Elisha, using his supernatural powers, foresaw their plans. The enraged king of Aram sent his army to besiege the city of Dothan, where Elisha was. Elisha's servant trembled in fear. Elisha reassured him, saying, "There are more with us." Elisha opened the servant's eyes, and he saw God's army, full of horses and chariots of fire. Elisha blinded the Aramean army, and lured them to the city of Samaria. Once inside the city, Elisha restored the Aramean army's eyesight. And they realized they were surrounded by the Israelite army. When the king of Israel tried to kill them, Elisha instead ordered them to be fed and sent away. The king, following Elisha's instructions, fed the Aramean army and sent them away. After this, the Aramean army never again invaded Israel. Provided by the Bible History School. If you subscribe and set up notifications, you can receive one chapter of the Bible every day. 2 Kings chapter 7. Samaria under siege. Later, Ben-Hadad, king of Aram, gathered his entire army and marched against Samaria. The city of Samaria was besieged by the Aramean army and suffered from severe famine. When the people were in despair, Elisha prophesied, "Tomorrow about this time, flour and barley will be sold for cheap at the city gate." The king's officials scoffed and disbelieved him. 4 lepers at the entrance to the city gate went to surrender to the Aramean camp, rather than starve to death. However, the Aramean camp was empty. God had caused the Aramean army to flee in panic, as chariots and horses had roared. The lepers reported this to the city, and the people plundered the Aramean camp for food. As Elisha prophesied, flour and barley were sold at a low price. The king's official was trampled to death at the city gate for trying to control the people. Provided by the Bible History School. If you subscribe and set up notifications, you can receive one chapter of the Bible every day. 2 Kings, chapter 8. Jehoram and Ahaziah, kings of Judah. Elisha foretold a famine, and sent a Shunammite woman with her family to flee to Philistine territory. 7 years later, she returned, and by God's grace, the king restored her house, land, and even her crops. Next, Elisha prophesied to Hazael about the illness of Ben-Hadad, king of Aram. Elisha was saddened when he learned that Hazael would become king of Aram and commit great evil against Israel. Finally, Hazael killed Ben-Hadad and became king of Aram. Meanwhile, Jehoram of Judah became king at the age of 32 and reigned for 8 years. Jehoram married the daughter of Ahab, king of Israel, and did evil in the eyes of the Lord. As a result, Edom and Libnah betrayed Judah and became independent, weakening Judah's national power. Nevertheless, God, in keeping with his covenant with David, did not completely destroy Judah. After Jehoram's death, his son Ahaziah became king. However, under the influence of his mother, Athaliah, he followed in the footsteps of the Ahab family and committed evil. Provided by the Bible History School. If you subscribe and set up notifications, you can receive one chapter of the Bible every day. 2 Kings, chapter 9. Jehu becomes king of northern Israel. The prophet Elisha, at God's command, anointed Jehu as the new king of northern Israel. God gave Jehu a stern command to completely destroy the house of Ahab. Jehu, along with the commanders of the army, blew trumpets to officially proclaim himself the new king. Jehu, king of northern Israel, was receiving treatment in Jezreel after suffering serious injuries in a battle with Aram. Ahaziah, king of southern Judah, visited Jezreel to visit Joram. Jehu immediately went to Jezreel, found Joram, and shot him dead with an arrow. Ahaziah, also wounded, tried to flee, but ultimately died. Jehu threw Jezebel out a window, causing her to die a brutal death. He annihilated Ahab's remaining family, all his officials, and all the Baal-worshipping priests, completely wiping out the Ahab family. Jehu then ascended to the throne as the new king of Israel. Provided by the Bible History School. If you subscribe and set up notifications, you can receive one chapter of the Bible every day. 2 Kings, chapter 10. The worshippers of Baal are murdered. Jehu executed Ahab's 70 sons, at God's command. He also exterminated all members of Ahab's family. He also tricked the Baal worshippers into gathering together and killed them all. He then demolished the temple of Baal and reduced it to ashes. Thus, Jehu attempted to eradicate Baal worship from Israel. However, Jehu did not eliminate Jeroboam's worship of the golden calf. Because of this, he failed to truly turn the hearts of the people to God. God acknowledged Jehu's judgment of Ahab's family. However, to punish Jehu for his imperfect obedience and political motives, God sent Hazael to strike Israel. Jehu ruled Israel from Samaria for 28 years. Provided by the Bible History School. If you subscribe and set up notifications, you can receive one chapter of the Bible every day. 2 Kings, chapter 11. Athaliah, queen of Judah. After King Ahaziah died, his mother, Athaliah, plotted to usurp power. She committed the horrific atrocity of slaughtering the royal family and declared herself queen. However, Ahaziah's sister, Jehosheba, managed to get Prince Joash out of the way. For the next 6 years, Joash hid in the depths of the temple, enjoying protection. In the 7th year, the faithful priest Jehoiada secretly gathered the commanders of hundreds and the guards. They plotted and executed to make Joash king. After Joash was made king, Athaliah was arrested and executed for treason. The people destroyed the temple of Baal and abolished idolatry. They also enthusiastically welcomed the reign of Joash, the successor to the Davidic dynasty. Joash was only 7 years old when he became king. Provided by the Bible History School. If you subscribe and set up notifications, you can receive 1 chapter of the Bible every day. 2 Kings, chapter 12. Joash, king of Judah. Joash became king at the age of 7 and ruled Judah for 40 years. He did what was right in the eyes of the Lord, following the guidance of Jehoiada the priest. However, the high places were not removed, and the people continued to offer sacrifices there. Joash ordered the collection of donations for the repair of the temple. However, 23 years passed, and the priests still did not begin the work. Joash rebuked the priests, created a treasury, and had supervisors repair the temple. He ensured that the donations were used solely for the repair of the temple. When Hazael, king of Aram, attacked, Joash sent gold from the temple and the royal palace to Hazael, who stopped the attack. Ultimately, Joash was killed by his officials and buried in the city of David. His son, Amaziah, succeeded to the throne of Judah. Provided by the Bible History School. If you subscribe and set up notifications, you can receive 1 chapter of the Bible every day. 2 Kings, chapter 13. The prophet Elisha dies. Jehoahaz, king of northern Israel, committed many evil deeds. Nevertheless, suffering under the oppression of Aram, he prayed to God. God sent a deliverer to deliver Israel. Nevertheless, they remained attached to idolatry. His son, Joash, also followed an evil path. Before his death, Elisha, sick and facing death, prophesied to King Joash that he would defeat Aram 3 times. When Joash struck the ground with his arrows 3 times, Elisha lamented that he would not be able to completely destroy Aram. After Elisha's death, a body thrown into his tomb miraculously came back to life when it touched Elisha's bones. Joash defeated Aram 3 times and reclaimed the captured city. Provided by the Bible History School. If you subscribe and set up notifications, you can receive 1 chapter of the Bible every day. 2 Kings, chapter 14. Amaziah, king of Judah. King Amaziah of Judah, seeking revenge for his father's murder, punished his officials. He showed a just attitude by sparing their children, as required by the law. However, he was not as perfect before God as King David. Amaziah won a war against Edom. This led to Amaziah's pride, and he even challenged King Joash of Israel to war. Joash warned Amaziah of his recklessness, but Amaziah refused to listen. Ultimately, Judah suffered a crushing defeat at Beth Shemesh. The walls of Jerusalem collapsed, and many people were taken captive. Amaziah fled to Lachish to escape the rebellion, but was ultimately assassinated there. His son, Azariah, succeeded him as king and ruled Judah. provided by the Bible History School. If you subscribe and set up notifications, you can receive one chapter of the Bible every day. 2 Kings, chapter 15. King Pekah of Israel. Pekah was originally a military officer under King Pekahiah of Israel. Seeking power, he rebelled, murdered the king, and took the throne for himself. Pekah reigned over northern Israel for 20 years. He continued the sin of his predecessor, Jeroboam, namely, idolatry. During Pekah's reign, the powerful Assyrian king, Tiglath-Pileser III invaded. He conquered northern Israel, including Ijon, Abel-Beth-Maachah, and Genoa. He also carried many of its inhabitants captive to Assyria. Pekah allied with King Rezin of Aram and pursued an anti-Assyrian policy, even attacking Judah. However, Pekah was ultimately assassinated by Hoshea, bringing an end to his turbulent reign. The story of Vega vividly portrays the turbulent and unstable history of northern Israel. Provided by the Bible History School. If you subscribe and set up notifications, you can receive one chapter of the Bible every day. 2 Kings, chapter 16. Ahaz, king of Judah. King Ahaz was 20 years old when he began to reign over Judah. He reigned in Jerusalem for 16 years. Unlike his ancestor David, he did many evil things in the sight of the Lord. Following the ways of the kings of Israel, the people of Judah also sinned by worshipping idols. King Ahaz was attacked by King Rezin and King Pekah, and sought help from King Tiglath-Pileser of Assyria. He sent the treasures of the temple and the royal palace to the king of Assyria. The Assyrians captured Damascus and killed King Rezin. King Ahaz met with the king of Assyria in Damascus. Seeing the altar there, he built a copy of the altar in the temple in Jerusalem. He altered the temple worship to his own liking, offering burnt and grain offerings and removing the bronze altar. Ahaz disobeyed God, worshipping idols and corrupting Judah. Provided by the Bible History School. If you subscribe and set up notifications, you can receive one chapter of the Bible every day. 2 Kings, chapter 17. The king of Assyria conquers Samaria. The fall of the northern kingdom of Israel was due to idolatry, which led to their abandonment of Jehovah. During the reign of King Ahaz of Judah, King Hoshea, who had been paying tribute to Assyria, rebelled, seeking help from Egypt. The king of Assyria imprisoned Hoshea and besieged Samaria for 3 years, ultimately capturing it. Ultimately, the Israelites were taken captive to Assyria, and the remnants were scattered. All of this occurred because the Israelites betrayed God and worshipped idols, ignoring the prophet's warnings and falling prey to idolatry. The northern kingdom of Israel was destroyed and absorbed into Assyrian territory, with cultural mixing and intermarriage becoming the norm. Jehovah's faith was reduced to a local religion in Assyria. The writer of Kings summarized the reason for the fall of the northern kingdom of Israel. In one word, they did not fear Jehovah. As they grew stronger, they became arrogant, mistakenly believing their strength was achieved through their own power, not God's. Provided by the Bible History School. If you subscribe and set up notifications, you can receive one chapter of the Bible every day. 2 Kings, chapter 18. Hezekiah, king of Judah. Hezekiah ascended the throne as king of Judah, and reigned in Jerusalem for 29 years. Like King David, he did what was right in the eyes of the Lord. He removed the high places and idols. He even broke down the bronze snake, an object of worship, and relied solely on God. The Lord was with him, and gave him success. Hezekiah rejected Assyrian rule, and conquered the Philistines. However, in the 14th year of Hezekiah's reign, Sennacherib, king of Assyria, invaded Judah and captured its cities. Hezekiah tried to avert the crisis by offering large sums of gold and silver. Nevertheless, the Assyrian general Rabshakeh threatened Jerusalem, blasphemed the Lord, and tried to appease the people. The people were silent, and the officials reported Rabshakeh's words to Hezekiah. Provided by the Bible History School. If you subscribe and set up notifications, you can receive one chapter of the Bible every day. 2 Kings, chapter 19. Sennacherib dies. Upon hearing the Assyrian threat, Hezekiah tore his clothes and entered the temple of the Lord. He then sent a messenger to the prophet Isaiah, asking for intercession. Isaiah delivered the word of the Lord: the king of Assyria will return to his own land and die. Afterwards, King Sennacherib of Assyria sent another threatening letter. Hezekiah spread the letter in the temple, and prayed earnestly to the Lord. Through Isaiah, the Lord rebuked Sennacherib for his pride. God also promised to protect Jerusalem. That night, the angel of the Lord destroyed 185,000 Assyrian soldiers. Sennacherib returned to Nineveh, and was later murdered by his own sons. Sennacherib's son Esarhaddon became king of Assyria in his place. Provided by the Bible History School. If you subscribe and set up notifications, you can receive one chapter of the Bible every day. 2 Kings, chapter 20. King Hezekiah dies. When King Hezekiah became ill and was on the verge of death, he desperately prayed to God. God, moved by his sincere faith, extended his life by 15 years. Hezekiah was overcome with joy and emotion, and he proudly displayed all the treasures of his kingdom to the delegation from Babylon. However, the prophet Isaiah saw through his arrogance and delivered a sad prophecy. Hezekiah warned that, because of Hezekiah's foolish actions, all his treasures would be carried off to Babylon. He also warned that his descendants would be taken captive and become eunuchs there. Hezekiah desperately hoped for peace, if only for his own time. Blinded by the glory before him, his arrogant actions brought tragedy to the nation. After Hezekiah died, his son Manasseh succeeded him as king of Judah. Provided by the Bible History School. If you subscribe and set up notifications, you can receive one chapter of the Bible every day. 2 Kings, chapter 21. Manasseh, king of Judah. Manasseh became king at the age of 12 and reigned over Judah for 55 years. He did what was extremely evil in the eyes of the Lord. He rebuilt the high places that Hezekiah had removed, and served Baal and Asherah. He worshipped the sun, moon, and stars of heaven. And he set up an altar for idols in the temple of the Lord. He also offered his own son as a sacrifice. He practiced divination and sorcery, shedding much innocent blood. Because of this, the Lord declared that he would bring great disaster on Jerusalem and Judah. After Manasseh's death, his son Amon became king. Amon, too, followed in his father's wicked ways, and ruled for 2 years before being killed by his own officials. The people executed the rebels and made Josiah king. Provided by the Bible History School. If you subscribe and set up notifications, you can receive one chapter of the Bible every day. 2 Kings, chapter 22. Josiah, king of Judah. Josiah, who ascended to the throne at the age of 8, did what was right in the eyes of the Lord, like David. In the 18th year of his reign, the book of the law was discovered, while the temple in Jerusalem was being repaired. King Josiah was greatly shocked by this. When the scribe read the book of the law, Josiah tore his clothes and repented deeply. Josiah believed that God's wrath was great, because his ancestors had not kept the law. He immediately resolved to implement religious reforms. He removed the shrines, and strictly prohibited the people from worshipping idols. He devoted all his energy to following only the word of the Lord. Josiah's bold reforms marked a crucial turning point in the history of Judah. He is remembered as one of the greatest kings in Judah's history. Josiah reigned over Judah for 31 years. Provided by the Bible History School. If you subscribe and set up notifications, you can receive one chapter of the Bible every day. 2 Kings, chapter 23. Josiah's reforms. King Josiah purified and repaired the temple in Jerusalem. He removed all the vessels made for Baal and Asherah. He burned all objects related to idolatry. He purged all abominations, including those related to divination. He also tore down the high places in Bethel and Samaria, eradicating Jeroboam's sins. Josiah strived to observe the law and celebrated the Passover. He was an unprecedented king who wholeheartedly turned to the Lord. However, God's wrath against Manasseh's sins remained. Later, Josiah was killed by Pharaoh Necho, king of Egypt, at Megiddo. His death brought great sorrow to the people of Judah. Jehoahaz and Jehoiakim then became kings, but they committed evil deeds. Provided by the Bible History School. If you subscribe and set up notifications, you can receive one chapter of the Bible every day. 2 Kings, chapter 24. The Babylonian invasion. During the reign of King Jehoiakim of southern Judah, the international situation was rapidly changing. Assyria's power was weakening, and Babylon and Egypt were competing for hegemony. Jehoiakim was initially pro-Egyptian. However, the situation changed when King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon invaded southern Judah. Jehoiakim served Babylon for 3 years. During this time, Daniel and his friends were taken captive in the first round of exiles. However, Jehoiakim betrayed Babylon and attempted to rely on Egypt again. This led to Nebuchadnezzar's second invasion. Jehoiakim's son, King Jehoiakim, and many of the people were taken captive to Babylon. The royal palace and the temple's treasures were plundered, and Jerusalem was tragically devastated. Jehoiakim's foolish choices and frequent betrayals led to the destruction of southern Judah. Provided by the Bible History School. If you subscribe and set up notifications, you can receive one chapter of the Bible every day. 2 Kings, chapter 25. The fall of Jerusalem. In the 9th year of King Zedekiah's reign, the Babylonian army led by Nebuchadnezzar laid siege to Jerusalem. After 2 years of severe famine, the walls finally collapsed. King Zedekiah attempted to escape at night. However, he was captured, blinded, and taken to Babylon. Nebuzaradan, one of Nebuchadnezzar's generals, arrived in Jerusalem and burned the temple of the Lord and the royal palace. He executed the nobles of Judah and devastated the city. The precious treasures of the temple were plundered, and the people were taken captive to Babylon. Only the poor were left to farm the devastated land. Gedaliah, who had been appointed governor, was assassinated. Fearing Babylonian retaliation, the remaining people were forced to flee to Egypt. Meanwhile, King Jehoiakim was released by King Evil-Merodach after 37 years of captivity. Provided by the Bible History School. If you subscribe and set up notifications, you can receive one chapter of the Bible every day.